Time on election morning now. Norwich Walk, Maine.
Yes,
You're on the
hello.
air. Welcome.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that I think that you do a pretty good job of keeping a straight face with some of these callers and their comments. And second of all, I'm kind of disappointed in the state of Maine with the way they voted. The economy in this state is not the greatest that maybe there is in the rest of the world, but we don't see the economy thriving like maybe they do in Washington. So I hope Bush gets in there and works with the Republican Congress.
Thanks for participating, sir. Smithfield, Virginia is next, a Democrat.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Thanks for your call. What's on your mind?
Great. My name is Kathy Slade, and I am a substitute teacher in Smithfield, Virginia, and I'm staying up really late. I'm losing my voice here. But my question is, I find it ironic that Florida is having such difficulty tabulating the vote. Could there be some possible cheating going on because George Bush's brother is the governor of Florida?
Thanks very much. I think there's going to be continued look at the voter turnout in a couple states, according to both the calls we've been getting and some of the reports we've been seeing. Let's take a telephone call from Sumter, South Carolina, and then we're going to listen in to some of the rallies that are going on in the two candidates' home states. Sumter, go ahead, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'd just like to say thank you very much for all this fine work that y'all been doing. And I would like to thank everybody in the United States who got out and voted today, because this has been a very important election. I've been a civil servant for almost 30 years now, and this has been very important to me. And I do believe that the most important right that you have as an American citizen is to get out and vote for your party. That being said, hallelujah, George Bush. I'm looking forward to working for you, fella. Amen.
Thanks. And for what it's worth, as we're watching the coverage, NBC and the Fox network have both now called this race with Florida in Bush's camp, and therefore the overall race to George W. Bush. Let's listen into Austin. You can see the crowd reacting to those reports, and we'll listen for a bit.
This is absolute redemption for the former President Bush. Remember this summer he talked about the fact that if the Suddenly, early on in the campaign, it was talked about restoring dignity to the White House. And in the last 72 hours, you've heard that theme again. Senator, had a young president, George Bush, a businessman who woke up on his 40th birthday and decided to give up drinking. Now, for 24 years in Washington, George W. Bush, the son, was not supposed to even be in public life, and he's tonight elected president.
Just 5 years ago, he was the managing partner of the Texas Rangers baseball team. And then he was elected governor of the state of Texas. They gave up running the baseball team and run the state. And, much of it made of the fact that Texas has a weak government system. This is not a government with a great deal of power in his own right. That well may be, but it's a source of a lot of people. He turned out to be a very popular governor in that state. And the Republican eyes across this country have been on him literally since the day he was elected governor, took office, I should say, in 1995.
That's right, and he's going to go to Washington with a Republican House of Representatives. Right now, the Senate has not been decided, but he may have the Republican Senate, which means that for the first time in almost 50 years, we could have a situation where the Republicans control the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the White House. Let's just be careful about that because irrational exuberance could take over.
Tammy's role is in Victory City, Austin, Texas.
It is cold enough to see your breath in Austin, Texas. I was in Green Bay yesterday, and it was warmer there than it is here this evening. This crowd has been rained on. They have cheered every state that won for Bush. They have done it seemed to swing sort of towards the vice president. The crowd got very quiet. Florida was put back into play, and from then on, every single state that went, they cheered. So you were looking at Dr. Bush fans. It's good to come home when this sort of thing happens because you've got a crowd like this that is still right up for you. We have heard that as of yet, George Bush has no reaction. We do know that he has been spending this evening in the governor's mansion with his brother Jeb, his father, his mother, while they have been watching the events unfold. We were told at one point the atmosphere was nervous, but we've been told all along that George Bush was feeling serene about the race he ran, that whatever happened, he felt that his campaign gave it a good go. Tonight, again, you are looking at Austin, some of them who have been waiting here literally for 9 and 10 hours to see their favorite son make good.
That's the scene, the live picture from Austin, Texas, where the crowd got the news that Florida's electoral votes have been thrown to George W. Bush. Fox News is projecting on their website 49% to 48%, and the actual vote tally for Mr. Bush at 43,049,000 to Mr. Gore's 42,406,000. They also have this story: Gore to contest decisive Florida vote. Well, let's see what it looks like in Nashville, Tennessee.
ladies and gentlemen, Alan Tippergore will be here in approximately 20 minutes. So everybody hold what you got.
And at this late hour, if you're just interested in seeing what it's like in those two headquarters cities, on C-SPAN 2, our companion network, we have a split screen where we have live pictures from both locations, so you can keep a watch on those two crowds. And that's what it looks like on C-SPAN 2. Here on this network, we'll just show you one scene at a time, and we just heard the announcement that Al Gore will be out to speak to his supporters in Nashville in about 20 minutes, so we'll provide live coverage. Let's return to telephone calls. Next is Rosemont, Minnesota, a Democrat.
Democrat.
Yes, you're on the air. You have something to say, caller?
Yeah, I'm calling you from Rosemont, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. We know that. What do you want to say?
Okay, what I'd like to say is I'd like to talk to the voters, and I'd like to know why that after 8 years of a good economy, that they could even think of voting for another administration other than Al Gore's.
Thank you, sir. Carthage, Missouri, go ahead. Sorry, Mississippi, go ahead, please.
Yes, I was just wanting to say that I am from Mississippi. Bush had Mississippi's votes, and I just feel that if Bush gets into the office, the presidential office, which I hope and pray he does, that he is the man for the country. He is the people's choice. He will bring back the Social Security for people that need it, the Medicare for people that need it. And I just feel that if Gore gets in it, that he'll follow in Clinton's footsteps, and he'll destroy America. He'll kill what the people need. And as far as the caller from St. Louis calling Bush a moron about him with the cocaine and stuff, I think it came out sometime that Clinton had done the marijuana.
Okay, caller, thanks. Shreveport, Louisiana, Democrat, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Nikita Willis, and I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. And I feel that Bill Clinton did a lot for the economy. He also did a lot for the children and education, and I don't feel that it's right for people to call and say that Al Gore is not perfect to be a presidential elect, because I think that his issues are terrific as far as the children and the schooling. And this economy has progressed a lot over the years. There are more jobs. There are better tax cuts for single parents, such as myself. And I feel that Bush is not going to stand by the words and things that he has committed to do. I think that they're making a terrible mistake, because Al Gore is a perfect candidate for us, and I think that we could progress more and go further if we have someone that are going to stand for values and stand behind what they say they're going to do.
Thank you, caller. Let's listen in. You can see there's quite a lineup of speakers coming out in Austin, so let's listen in and see what it's like there.
Amber waves of grain for purple mountain majesties upon the fruited plains. America, God shed His grace on thee. from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriotry that sees beyond the years, whose alabaster cities gleam undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on you and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea to shining sea. Thank you very much, everybody.
We're going to see him. He's going to be here in about 20 minutes. Just hang on. Just hang on. Hey, we've been waiting a long time for this moment, folks. And this is a great night for America. Hang on.
At one time or another to do a tough piece, tough series about how much you can do anything. And I remember reminding him, well, he didn't promise to do very much. In fact, he promised a pretty tame estimate.
That seemed to be what he thought his voters wanted. That's not the case here so much with George W. He has promised, he's made some pretty ambitious promises. He's talking about a kind of a bold plan for Social Security, very controversial, detested by many Democrats. Education reform and a major tax cut.
Even a tax cut that the leadership of his own party at certain points in the campaign and walked away from, at least the initial.
The truth is that the education reform, if it's easily compromised out, that's right now, something there will be a bipartisan education package early in the next Congress. I think the tax cut will be compromised on. Presidents are controlling policy crises. The economy can slow down, and I suspect that we don't know what we'll be talking about in February 2001, but according to what we now think it's going to be. I'm just going to say to the animation of the energy board of challenges as he gets much more electric votes now. We project the state of New Mexico goes to him and no matter what. I think this it already has. So 48, 99% of precincts in there go all the way to New Mexico. Right there, all those people that hope to win that state. Let Terry tell you something.
Well, what you're going to see now is kind of a coalition government. First, we probably ought to congratulate people in Austin on their choice of cable in our house. And the next thing we have to do is talk a little bit about the challenges George W. Bush faces. Now, we asked Americans if they wanted government by the same party or they wanted a divided government. And when we get back to me and our slates, we will demonstrate to you that people actually wanted government by the same party by a margin of 53% to 40%. That flies in the face of conventional wisdom where people have said in recent years that Americans like divided government. Turns out not to have been true this year. Also, which issues are most important? Well, let me just read off a couple. On the environment, if you're trading off the environment versus the economy, it's almost an even trade. There you have it. By economy, we're really talking about economic growth.
Well, the crowds in both capital cities are waiting to hear from their candidates. Vice President Al Gore will be out just a few minutes before, probably about 10 minutes from now, in Nashville, Tennessee. And in about 20 minutes from now, we've heard that George W. Bush will be there in Austin, Texas. So we'll provide live coverage of both men's remarks to their candidates. And we're going to continue taking telephone calls while we're waiting. This is a good time to tell you we have about 75 people in our company involved in all aspects of our election night coverage. And special thanks to Mark Farkas, who is our team leader, coordinating what tonight's events and overall coverage would look like. Thanks for your hard work, Mark. Next telephone call is from Aurora, Colorado. Aurora, you're on the air.
Hi, yeah, this is Dolores Partner from Aurora, Colorado. And I was just calling. I normally vote Democratic. However, this time I voted Republican because of the moral stance that President Bush took. And I'd just like to say that when there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily, but with honest and sensible leaders, there's stability. That's Proverbs 28:2. So if we kind of focus on morality, I think we can basically ensure the success, both financially and morally, of our country. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Essex, Iowa, you're next on our Democrats line.
Yes. Hello.
Go ahead.
I'm calling. I'm a 67-year-old widow, and I think the people of our age made a terrible mistake tonight, because whenever the Republicans say they're going to fix something, you can bet you they're going to fix it all right. We're not. We're going to have our benefits reduced, and they're going to do away with the disability part of Social Security. And I think that people should have thought through who they voted for tonight. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a president. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for calling. The last time that the Republicans had the House, Senate, and White House was 1952 with Dwight Eisenhower. Next telephone call is from Rawlins, Wyoming. Rawlins, you're on the air.
Hi, I guess I am live. Wait a minute, let me mute this. Well, it's disturbing to hear that woman being so radical about division in the country, because I really feel that it's important for the United States to understand that we elected tonight a Republican. I don't think we should be partisan when it comes to the decency of all of our citizenry. I want to say something that is very deep to my heart. I'm 55 years old. I was raised a very conservative Republican, and then I went very Democratic liberal. But in this election, I sent $25 to Ralph Nader, and he was pretty much ignored in the network. But I think deep in all of our hearts that Nader was not going to win the election. And when I went to the polls today, and I had to write in Nader's name in Wyoming because he wasn't on the ballot, I kind of snickeredly, and I really felt very strongly about it. I hope Bush wins, because at least Bush isn't a hypocrite. The Democratic Party has forsaken the general working class in this country. And Nader, who has been always fighting for the citizenry of this country since he was a very young man with a good head of brown hair, and God bless him, God bless Nader, because we're going to make it right. It's not an issue of, it's not a Democrat or Republican thing anymore. That has been sold out to a corporate interest. This man represents the best of all of us. And God bless, I've talked on the phone with Jerry Ford, and I've gotten letters from Reagan, and God bless all the partisanship in this country. But we have to pull together under Bush now, and we have to appreciate that we are still Republicans, and we will take care of us with the help of Nader. And that's what's going to happen in this country.
Thank you, sir. Got to let you go. Appreciate your calling in. Pompano Beach, Florida. You're next. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. What a long night it's been. I voted for George Bush, and while I have to say I had pros and cons about both candidates, I thought they both had some good points. The biggest issue for me was the fact that the Gore administration did not seem to distance themselves from the partial birth abortion. And I know it's a thing that just gets absolutely buried in rhetoric, and nobody absolutely wants to talk about it. It's a woman's right to choose. And I just think that fine, but not up to late-term abortions. I think we need to have some serious abortion reform. We need to keep it to a necessary thing to protect women, but after a point it ceases to be a choice. And I had a problem with that.
Thank you. Elk City, Oklahoma, you're next on C-SPAN's election night coverage, and you're on our Democrats line.
Good morning. I just wanted to say that I've always voted Democrat, and I always will, but George Bush is going to be in my prayers from today on because he's really, really going to need it. I think the elderly people and the disabled people like myself are the ones who are going to pay the most, and the wealthy people in this country are the ones who are going to benefit the most. And also, I'd just like to know why in Florida, of all the states in the country, were ballot boxes accidentally left by inexperienced people. Why were these people not supervised by experienced people? Why not Oklahoma or Texas or Nevada? Why Florida, where his brother happens to be the governor? Thank you very much.
Twin Falls, Idaho, you're live on C-SPAN.
Hi. After watching the presidential debate, seeing Gore act like a hot-headed, out-of-control person, this is not what I want for somebody to run my country or be over me. So I'm glad Bush is ahead. I think it's time for a change. We do need a Republican in there.
Jacksonville, Florida, Republican line. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
You're on the air.
Oh, okay. I would just like to say that I was always a Democrat, but I had to switch parties over to the Republicans. And I wish people would realize that our economy is not doing really great now because of what the Clinton and Gore administration has done. It has been what has taken place in the previous years. We have yet to experience an economical type of situation, and that will come a little bit later on because it takes time for a president to do anything and to go into effect, and where it affects the common people. And let's face it, Clinton had put into effect the largest tax increase in history of this entire nation.
Thank you. Houston, Texas. Go ahead, please. Hello, Houston.
Yes, good morning. I was I really take exception to what is happening in Florida. We're talking about ballot boxes lost. We're talking about people that thought they voted for Gore, but it turns out they voted for Buchanan. And yet, in Dade County, it's very fuzzy in terms of what the voter situation is there. And suddenly, by projection, we are declaring Bush the winner. I mean, this is an extremely close race, and I think that it should be contested. I think there should be a recount in Florida because something this close, I don't think you should project him and then the media carry him forward as being the winner when this is an election where every vote is going to count. So I think it's irresponsible of the media to state Bush is the winner.
Thanks for your call. This is actually, this is not based on projections. This is 99% of the precincts reporting in now. So they've got the votes tallied there. That's at least one point of your remarks we can clarify. Steve Scully, you've got some information for us about Florida?
Susan, Howard Kurtz has a story posted on WashingtonPost.com, and he says, quote, exactly what went wrong was not clear, but the first warning came at 9:38 in a message from Voter News Service, which transmits the voter exit poll data to news organizations that they use to project winners and losers on election night. One of the quotes said that we're canceling the vote in County 16, which is Duval County, which includes Jacksonville. The vote is strange. And then at 10:13 in the evening, VNS put the vote in the entire state of Florida in doubt. The message from VNS said we're retracting our call in Florida because we don't have our previous confidence. Howard Kurtz goes on to say that the situation in Florida was complicated by the large number of absentee ballots, which we've been talking about during the course of the night. Republican officials contend that they have about 100,000 more Republicans who had requested absentee ballots than Democrats. And then they point out to what happened back in 1988. Democrat Buddy McCare was declared the winner in the Senate race on election night. The absentee ballots came in, and Connie Mack became the senator in Florida. That can be found at WashingtonPost.com and also in the Washington Post tomorrow.
Thanks. We're going to go back to telephone calls. We now hear that Vice President Al Gore will be in Nashville in about 20 minutes. That puts it at about 3 Eastern Time. Next call's from St. Louis.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Calling on our Republican line. What do you think of the results in the Senate race there?
I see the Senate race here.
Yes.
I think it's ridiculous. Mel Carnahan, he was, a good person, I'm sure, but I think he won on a sympathy vote. Actually, it really saddens me. And what happened here in St. Louis, I don't know if you're aware that a judge here in St. Louis allowed the polling booths to be open 1 hour longer. Actually, she ordered for 3 hours longer, but the Republicans stopped it in the appeals court to stop. But I believe that's what did it. They were allowing people to vote who weren't registered. It's going to be investigated tomorrow.
Thanks very much. Actually, that is a story we've been hearing about from the news media, from the internet, and from callers. San Antonio, Texas. You're on the air, and you're on our Democrats line.
Yes, I just wanted to tell everybody out there that I think they made a horrible choice voting for Bush. He has done nothing for Texas, and it's just a horrible choice. He couldn't even run a baseball team. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Sulphur Springs, Texas. You're next.
Yes, I'm a 20-year-old college student, and, I hear all these people, Democrats, Republican, everything else calling in, and, I'm really not either one. I just, vote for the best candidate, and, they need to stop, being so political, and they all just need to come together and stop, letting that decide our future as a government and everything else, and, just be more about, about what's right and what's wrong instead of trying to let politics decide what's going on. Because as the young people, I realize, we're not really worried about that. We're just worried about the best person for the job and not who's, Democratic or Republican. And that's, really all I had to say.
Thank you. Blacksburg, Virginia, Republican. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm a former Floridian, and I stayed up to watch the whole thing, and I'm glad that my state brought it home. I think George Bush he and his team are going to do a fine job as president. And I think that we made the right choice.
Thanks for participating. Des Moines, Iowa, you're next on our Democrats line.
Yeah, I was just calling in. I think that it's terrible that George Bush, that he won, and I don't think that the votes were counted right in Florida, and I think that there was something wrong the way they counted those votes. And I wish that Al Gore would win, and I think that they need to recount those votes, and I think there was something going on.
Thanks. Next is a caller from Eureka, California, and that call is on our independent line.
Hi, thanks for C-SPAN.
Thank you for watching.
I think this election's been a joke from the beginning, and with the Shiite Republicans in control of the House and the Senate, country's going to get what it deserves. We'll have another depression before 4 years is up. I hope you all enjoy it. Thanks.
Roseburg, Oregon, a Republican. What do you think of the results?
I'm happy George Bush made it. I'm glad he did, because I think if Gore would have made it in there, a lot of people didn't get the full message that he was sending out. And it's just, I'm happy he did, because Social Security, he would up taxes on Social Security. Up here in Oregon, it's one of the biggest logging states in the world, and, he would have really cut back on a lot of employment up here because, he's just that way. He was in the government for 8 years, and, everything he said that they were going to do, we're still waiting for it, and I'm glad Bush made it.
Thanks very much. Steve Scully, are you there? Steve, can you tell us, that last caller was from Oregon, and Oregon was one of those holdout states that we didn't have the Electoral College results from. They have 7. Do you know what's happening there?
I was just over at the Miami Herald. I was trying to find out if there's anything new on a possible voter recount. If the vote is close enough in the state of Florida, the state law requires a recount. But I'll go to Oregon. Right now, it shows that Governor Bush is winning 49-46 over Vice President Al Gore. That's with about 71% of the precincts in Oregon reporting.
Thanks. And do you have anything else for us?
Let me go back, if I could, to the Miami Herald site. Actually, Derek Willis is joining us over Congressional Quarterly. Let me just ask him a question if he knows anything about the nuances of Florida law.
Well, Steve, I know a little bit about it, and I've been just sort of brushing up in the last couple minutes. And if a candidate in any office, in any election in Florida, if they lose by less than 0.5%, 1/2 of 1%, it triggers an automatic recount according to state law. Now, the losing candidate in that instance can waive that recount. For instance, if they write in a letter saying, I request that you do not hold a recount, the state will not do it. But in this instance, less than 0.5% could trigger that, and that's pretty much what we're looking at. The latest returns that I'm seeing from Florida, with about 99.6% of the state reporting, have George W. Bush leading Al Gore by 0.15%, roughly a 48.95% to 48.80%. And so it looks like a recount could be very likely in that state, unless Al Gore waives it.
In fact, here are the raw numbers again from the Miami Herald. Governor Bush getting 2,886,569 votes compared to 2,877,659 votes, with, as you said, 99.6% of the precincts reporting in Florida. A very narrow win in Florida for Governor Bush. Go ahead, Derek Willis.
I'm sorry, excuse me, very narrow. And actually, you know, the other thing that probably should be mentioned about that is that 93,000 votes, almost 94,000 votes for Ralph Nader in Florida, which I think probably comes as a bit of a surprise.
And as you look at Broward County, it was a 2-to-1 win for Vice President Gore in Broward County, which is traditionally a strong Democratic area. Also in Miami-Dade, they do not have, though, the results from the Northern Panhandle, which traditionally tends to go for Republicans, does it not?
That's true. I mean, conservative Democrats can do well in the Panhandle, but Broward County is really the epicenter of Democrats in Florida. It contains about a quarter of the state's Democrats alone, and so that obviously the Vice President needed to roll up a huge victory in Broward, and he also needed to really pad the numbers in Miami-Dade, and it didn't seem like he did that tonight.
So, Derek Willis, what happens over the next couple of days here in this town with the Republicans keeping the House and the Senate by narrow margins, and now, from all accounts, the presidency in Republican hands?
Well, I think Al Gore might have something to say about that. I'm not sure. You know, obviously it's his decision if this continues along the line that it's going right now. But obviously the House, Senate, and the presidency in Republican hands would mean pretty big changes. I think it would be something that would energize the Republican base throughout the nation and here in Washington. It would definitely be a different scene than what we've seen in the past eight years.
Derek Willis, who has been joining us all night and all morning from Congressional Quarterly, and a bunch of your colleagues as well, and we'll probably check in with you again before the morning is over.
We'll probably be here.
Thanks very much. Susan?
We're here, and we're all attentive to what's going on because we're waiting for the two men to come out to speak to their supporters. And we hear that Vice President Al Gore is due in Nashville now about 3:15. That time keeps moving, about 3:15 Eastern Time. And if we get new word on George W. Bush in Austin, we'll give you that time as well, because we're all anxious to hear what they have to say about this race. Roseburg, Oregon, next. Roseburg's gone, so let's move on to Atlanta.
Yes.
Calling on our Democrats line, what do you think about tonight?
I'm very, very disappointed, and especially as being a Black American, to see Bush winning, and as governor of Texas, he just simply said no to Byrd's daughter about passing a hate crime bill. And I feel that we as Black Americans, we're in serious trouble with a president with an attitude like this.
What do you think will happen?
I just think we're in bad trouble.
Well, you have to have a reason for that. What's the scenario you see ahead of you?
I see days of going where we as a people will be set back at least 20 years. I mean, a hate crime bill, and he as governor would not pass it. He would not back it. I have a serious issue with this.
Okay, thank you for your participation this evening. New Orleans.
Hello.
First of all, I want to congratulate C-SPAN on doing an excellent job of covering these races. And I want to say that I don't really buy that thing about the media giving Florida to Gore so early. I kind of think it was a move to discourage voters on the West Coast, and also with that judge keeping the polling open later in, I think it was St. Louis. And then a story, before the election about George W's DWI. I mean, it almost sounds like a typical, predictable pattern before an election.
Thank you, sir. Wilmington, Delaware, you're next, calling on our Democrats line.
Yes. I would like to say, as an American citizen, and for all of us that have voted for Al Gore, I really feel that the vote needs to be recounted in Florida, and we all together, as I said, as American citizens that voted for Al Gore, need to demand this, because God have mercy on all of us for the next 4 years.
Cleveland, Mississippi.
Yes, I would like to say I'm very proud of George Bush. He's a Christian man, and God has sent the right man to lead our country.
Detroit, Democrats line.
Hi, how you doing today? This is Reverend Bartlett II. I am a Democrat, and I am very disappointed at this time. I feel that President Clinton and Al Gore should have done a better job in their own two states personally, and I think that played a major role also, not just Florida.
Where are you calling from, please?
Hello?
Where are you calling from?
Spring Hill, Florida.
You are live on the air on our Republican line.
Thank you. I'm my mom and I are one of the absentee ballot, two of the absentee ballots that were cast in Florida for George Bush. I had a question. I was in question about something. I was watching Al Gore today. He was kind of bringing about some warm, fuzzy emotions, talking with the children about the issues within the confines of a voting place. Now, I kind of thought that was kind of like, campaigning. I mean, the media at that point praised him for a good move. So that kind of proved it was campaigning. I mean, am I missing something? Am I the only one in the world that caught that? That's all I wanted to say.
Next is Atlanta, calling on our Democrats line.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I am sitting here in tears. Number one, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I am so disappointed. There were people in Atlanta that couldn't even vote, and they have states that they allowed to vote even longer. All I can say is just God help this country.
Jackson, Tennessee, Republican line.
Yeah, I'm 18. I just voted. This was my first election. I voted for Bush. I know Gore's from my home state here, but I really think he probably would have won if he hadn't have changed his mind so many times on so many issues. And one thing I'm for is pro-gun rights, Second Amendment, and he used to be for it, then he changed his mind. I think he just changes his mind to fit whatever he thinks will benefit him at the time. The Democratic supporters, they'll get over it. They'll see Bush is a pretty good guy. He passed the concealed carry law in Texas, and it brought crime down quite a bit. Hopefully he can do something to stop all the Democratic anti-gun laws that are going through the Senate. But I appreciate y'all's coverage, C-SPAN. You guys are awesome, and keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Next telephone call is from Hillsborough, Tennessee, Republican. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is Tim, and I'm a big-time Republican. And for the Democrats, I had a problem with Mr. Al Gore's position on the abortion laws and rules, and I feel that the choice of the woman should be whether or not to have sex, whether or not is not her choice to kill the baby, is my feeling on the case. That's why I voted for Mr. Bush.
Thanks for participating. Fort Worth, Texas, you're a Democrat. What do you think of tonight's results?
I'm very disappointed because I live here in Texas, as a matter of fact, Fort Worth, Texas, and my mostly concern is the executions that we've had here. If you read, and I've noticed that Governor Bush has electrocuted, 43, and for the last 4 months, we've had at least 3 executions a month. And I'm just thinking now that he's going to be our president, we're going to have at least astronomically executions all over the nation. And I just really want to say, God help our nation.
Thanks. Early in our program, 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern Time, which is quite a long time ago, we talked with the executive editor of USA Today about how they would put together their first edition of the newspaper. And they had to go to press before the results were known. Here's what their headlines: Bush, Gore, and cliffhanger as First Lady wins in New Jersey. But their cover story and the paper is 10 lessons learned from the campaign. If we can bring the camera down a little bit, it's right here. And in between calls, we will tell you what they think that on this early morning after the election is over, the 10 lessons are, with the first one being, it's not just the economy, stupid. After Boston, we'll see what number 2 is. Boston, go ahead, please. You're on our independent line.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment about Ralph Nader. I'd like to get your opinion and what you think about the fact that the Gore campaign is pointing their finger at Ralph Nader as the reason why they were unsuccessful. I think in a Democratic government, it saddens me to think that Gore thought that if Nader was out, then he would have won. Well, if Bush was out, then he would have won also. And I think he should just take credit for his mistakes and his inability to unite the party.
Thank you. You've offered your opinion, and we'll let that stand because we don't offer ours here. We're not in the commentary business. USA Today, point number 2 about lessons learned from the campaign is personality matters. They say the 2 presidential candidates appeared more often on The Tonight Show than they did on Meet the Press. In the final weekend, both nominees appeared for Saturday Night Live. They said the public's choice of president this year seemed to be based as much on personal characteristics as well as policy issues. Next call is from Leesburg, Florida, Republican.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. I'd like. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to say to all the people out there that are concerned about, I'm calling from Florida, concerned about the absentee ballots. It wasn't absentee ballots that got George Bush in office. It was prayers. We've been praying for weeks for this, and for all the people I hear that say they're Christians that voted for Al Gore, they need to reread the Bible and pray for this country. I think God has put his hand back on this country, and this is what we need.
Thanks. Point number 3 from Lessons of the Campaign is about money. They say, but how much does money, as opposed to personality? And they write, this is expected to be the first $3 billion election, a record built on other records. Money raised for a primary campaign, more than $100 million by Bush, raised at a single event, $26.5 million at a Democratic gala. Spent in a Senate race, $80 million in New York's contest between Hillary Clinton and Rick Lazio. Most spent on a House race, $10.1 in the California race between Rogan and Schiff. There was so much money, and in both parties, that it reduced its potency, they write in USA Today. Steve Scully, well, speaking of that race with Rogan and Schiff, you've got some more House information.
I do, Susan. 2 years ago in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Pat Casey, who is the son of the former governor of Pennsylvania, ran for Pennsylvania's 10th district. He was challenged by Don Sherwood. He lost to Congressman Sherwood by just a couple of hundred votes in a rematch in that district. Don Sherwood has been declared the winner, 52% to 48%, with about 117,000 votes for Don Sherwood, compared to just about 108,000 votes for Pat Casey. In one other race that we had been talking about earlier in Florida, Clay Shaw's seat in Florida, I believe it was the 22nd district. As we scroll down here, you'll see that Clay Shaw, right now, according to these results, with about 94% of the precincts reporting, Clay Shaw down 2 percentage points to Elaine Bloom, who was his Democratic challenger. Clay Shaw been in the House for about 20 years.
Can I just scroll up a little bit more, because the Clay Shaw-Claire Bloom is right out of our line of sight there.
Oh, there it is. Can you see it now?
There we go, and now we can see the numbers that you've got.
49% for Clay Shaw, about 95,750 votes. Elaine Bloom, 98,700 votes, 51% for Elaine Bloom.
Thank you. Houston, Texas is next as we continue listening to your reactions to the election. A Democrat.
First thing, Susan, you're looking good for this time of the morning.
Thank you.
I got 3 quick points here to make. First thing, I am so glad this is over with as far as Ralph Nader is concerned. I hope he does not get 5%, and I don't think he has. Second point, I am so tired of hearing about George Bush being such a moral person that he has to represent this country. I remember when a reporter said the wrong thing to him, he was called an AH. I also think about the things as far as the drugs and the alcohol is concerned. Why wasn't there any jail time or anything? I think about that. Also, his running mate, I heard on your station here a couple of days ago, and I'm not trying to put a rumor out there. This is what I heard from a caller, and I can't remember who the moderator was, but he did verify a station. They said something about Cheney raping someone outside of his lodge. I think it was in Cincinnati. And I think that all of these people thinking that these Republicans are going to represent us in the White House, going to bring us back as far as us going so far down the road as far as Clinton is concerned. They're going to wake up. All of the stories are just beginning to come out about Bush, and I think that we really need to pray. I really do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Continuing with USA Today's cover story on 10 lessons from Campaign 2000, which is just a couple of hours old. Number 4 is the telephone connects with more voters than the internet does. They write, when it comes to persuading undecided voters, the internet's power remains unproven. Instead, use of another device by candidates and interest groups exploded this year, the telephone. Lansing, Michigan, you are next. You're on our independent line. Who'd you vote for?
I have a reference on George Walker Bush.
Who did you vote for?
I didn't vote for Bush.
You did not. Okay.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, like a man. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, with fire and lies. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. That comes out of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 11 and 12. Thank you for all the great work you do, C-SPAN.
Thanks for your call. Number 5 lesson from USA Today on the campaign on televised presidential debates. Watch out what you wish for. It says Gore's strategists saw the nationally televised debates as the key to showcasing their more experienced candidate against an unprepared opponent. The Bush campaign seemed to agree and balked. The debates were a turning point in favor of the Republican ticket. Next is Walter Barrows, South Carolina, a Republican.
Republican.
You're on the air.
I'm on the air?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would like to say that I believe that the first president to actually legalize the illegal drugs they have in the state would actually get this country out of debt in no time.
Thank you. Next is New York City, calling on our Democrats line.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say that I can certainly understand why possibly the very rich in this country would vote for the Republican Party, but I'm just wondering what the average person like yourself or myself thinks that they're going to gain from electing this particular president. How does he actually represent us, the people? Does the average person, what do all the people that voted for him, what do we expect to really gain? And it just seems from the Bush and Reagan era, just in terms of all the infomercials that we see on TV, the deregulation of almost every type of industry that happened. I mean, it seems like that era is the reverberations of that are going to be with us for decades and decades to come, and it seems like we're right back into that very type of dangerous era where the what really happens over the next 4 or 8 years is really going to be with us for the next generation, in the sense of what people are saying now, that the fact that they're now not going to go after the tobacco companies and the drug companies and Microsoft. And I'm just wondering, what people think that they have to gain by electing someone of this nature that really represents the large corporations. I can understand if you're rich in this country, certainly you want to see tax breaks and things like that, and I understand that. But if you're just an average person, I don't know what we have to gain, and I think that we will reap what we sow and we will get what we deserve.
New York City, thanks. USA Today's lesson number 6 from the campaign is Social Security is no longer the third rail of politics in America. It says that it used to be called that because of the cliche, grab it and be electrocuted, and it suggests about how Mr. Bush brought it partial privatization of the system out to the campaign trail and obviously survived. Steve Scully, I understand that Mr. Gore will be with us in about 6 minutes to make his speech. What do you got for us in the interim?
That's what we're told. Susan, in the Michigan Senate race, Spence Abraham and his campaign spent about $14 million. Debbie Stabenow spent about $6 to $8 million. This is from the Detroit News, which now says that Debbie Stabenow is leading in the Senate race, which would be a major upset, according to the story from the Detroit News. And we're joined by Greg Giroux, who also has been following politics in Michigan. What do you know about this?
Michigan Senate race is one of the closest in the country. It's true that perhaps in early October, not many people, probably most people, would have expected Senator Abraham to win, and he actually had a sizable lead in the polls. But Debbie Stabenow really had a strong October, particularly in late October, strong debate performances, good advertising campaign, and really closed the gap. So I wouldn't be too shocked if she pulled this out tonight.
What will we be following tomorrow, though, when we get, there's been a controversy in Missouri about some of the polling places, and I understand there's been a controversy in Detroit as well.
Right, yeah, there's going to be so much to look at tomorrow. I think that the main story right now, though, it's, certainly after 3 o'clock Eastern time, and we have a dozen races, House races at least, they're still too close to call. And the really interesting thing, though, is that virtually all of these involve incumbents. The conventional wisdom about this campaign was that the really tight races would have been the so-called open seats, but a lot of incumbents are fighting for their lives.
Greg Giroux, thanks very much. We're going to take it back to Nashville, where the vice president is scheduled to appear momentarily.
Don't you
You can hear supporters in Nashville saying we want Gore, but in fact, we are pretty sure the delay is over the continued concern over the votes in Florida. ABC News has on their website this: Vice President Al Gore speaking to supporters in Tennessee shortly. What he is going to say is unclear as the actual vote in Florida, the state that pushed George W. Bush over the top, appear closer than original projections. And as these final numbers come in, the networks are reporting the numbers get closer and closer all the time. So lots of strategizing going on the two camps here, we're sure, and we'll keep watching. Folks, what's going on here is probably related to this election advisory that was moved on the AP wire at 3:21 a.m. And they sent this notice to all stations. They say, exactly quoting the AP, the lead in Florida for George W. Bush has dwindled to about 6,000 in the vote count. A small percentage of the vote has yet to be reported in several counties, including 2 predominantly Democratic counties. AP believes the uncounted votes in Broward and Palm Beach counties could allow a change of the lead in the Florida vote. We are watching the resolution of the actual vote count to assure if there is a change, which could yet have an impact on the outcome of the presidential election. So that's what's at stake here, and as soon as there's more information, we'll bring it to you.
John Roberts in Nashville, have you talked to the Gore camp about this stunning situation in Florida, where the Secretary of State says only 629 votes separated?
Dave said in a minute to talking directly about the narrowness of the victory. Certainly it has come down from where it was 12,000 about 20 minutes ago. But I'm sure that they're thinking about that, and I don't know if the idea of recount is running through their minds, but certainly could be.
Well, we see behind you, John, that the crowd in the rain there at Nashville is cheering for the first time in at least a year and a half or so. The returns, the recorded returns were driving around and so all over the place. But we were national, the Western's Cosmic Board could actually check them on the radio and say, well, never has that been true than at this hour. Let's switch to Austin if we can, because as a trade agent rather than start an auction. And who knows what the situation is right now. If we can get Austin McBride, this is a nice way to have, because they've just been told that the Florida Secretary of State has only 629 votes separating the two. They're Austin McBride, and the crowd is saying
in the state of Florida. We are going through that exercise to make sure that that document is happening indeed in the state of Florida.
John Kenny, I know you said a moment ago there was no indication that the governor would, the vice president would challenge the results tonight, but what about this notion that Jeff just brought up once again, that Al Gore could end up the popular vote winner?
Not a controversy about the results in Florida, you would not really have much to argue about. Because the results in Florida are so tight. We were told the vice president was coming here to deliver a concession speech. When he came over, he had already called Governor Bush. He had wished him well, and he would deliver a brief concession speech here tonight.
I think we're all sitting there and wondering what it is that how are we doing that? Perhaps talking about people running.
Much more. If the state of the should make the law in 1960, he was already able to challenge the voting away, and he decided in the end not to do it because he said he didn't want to do the constitutional process.
And what are these people yelling? Let's listen and turn our sound up here. People yelling, let's listen and turn our sound up here.
I don't believe I've heard the street and the Senate and gubernatorial races and loyal fans will don't concede. But I don't believe I've ever heard this on the eve of what we think is going to be a candidate's concession. Perhaps, I mean, I'm sure that's right. On the other hand, you know, we're looking at these numbers. These numbers are stranger, closer, more bizarre than any election perhaps in 40 years. And as I say, an election that took the twisting turns that this one did, I don't think, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if an unidentified spacecraft landed in Nashville and an alien got out and made some
sufficient number of minutes since we know there's no report that it is appropriate for us to ask about what is the presumably they were prepared either before they left the hotel or on the way over.
The time reported that he wanted to add that he actually wanted to put some finishing touches to he could be on the phone with Bill Clinton.
And in fairness, I think some of our hunger to hear the remarks of Mr. Gordon's Bush may be influenced by the
checking the figures very carefully and really make an absolute concession. We'll be listening very carefully to how clear a concession speech he makes.
And the speech is very important, which is why he apparently is still working on this John King report.
In a night that has been a roller coaster from the earliest vote counts when we did in Florida, we were taking the board, another news organization pulled it back. It has been up and down and up and down. opposing party, and you know what? They will win. That's right. John King, you were there. Tell us from your perspective what you're seeing here.
Judy, we're told the Vice President has been made aware of the fact that the Secretary of State of Florida is saying this race right now somewhere in the area of 600 vote margin.
Is exactly what to say out here. He has already called Governor Bush. He has already congratulated him and wished him well, and he has to come out now and make a public statement. One aide saying that the vice president could just come out and say that if the results stand, it appears Governor Bush will win, and if that is the case, he wishes him well. But we're waiting to hear from the vice president. He's backstage here at the This is another rather
What is the Secretary of State of Florida
right now, the Secretary of State of Florida is saying that the margin is somewhere in the area of 600 to 700 votes based on the current count. We have not heard a final count from the state of Florida, and we obviously need to have that final count. Governor Bush is still set to be ahead, but under most stats, if the margin is
determine the presidency based on how many people cast votes. But I'll just say again, I don't know why we thought that this race, which began in Florida being called for war, and mapped out the Bush would have pulled off the date that declared for Bush, Bush declared for president, speculation about the transition was delayed, and we're sitting here at 20 before the morning, waiting to see whether the Vice President now says we can see or cannot say It is a state of stone disbelief that a presidential election could be claimed to gather a 300 vote margin in the state of Florida. I'm simply saying that we have never seen anything like this before.
Every vote counts. We have seen Florida tonight in three different colors. We've seen it first given to Moore, then given to House of Cameroon, and then given to Bush.
I think everybody who's watching would like to know if they have to have a recount in the state of Florida, how much time does it take to do something like that?
That I can't tell. It depends if you get down state by state. Actually, it probably varies county by county. They can control their own marching machinery, but I imagine they would want to try to do it very quickly. Most of them have been counted. There are a few which come in from overseas. Often just a couple thousand come in from overseas military that are counted later.
Let's make it really clear. We still have not called state order. Again, politics listen, those states are completely irrelevant at this point. Whatever happens in Florida determines the presidency of the United States.
They may be irrelevant in assuming George W. Bush, this lead hold, he wins the state of Florida. They may become relevant if
Now, so those states are not determined who the president is. It's only if you get called.
Julie, some of the reports you hear in this very unusual night, the Vice President has recalled the governor and retracted his consent.
It appears as though someone's going to the podium. The seat comes as well up vision.
The Florida Division of Elections is now saying that there will be an automatic recount of the ballots in Florida because of the statutory recount provision that says that there is a gap of 0.5 for official secretary, so less between candidates. Right now, with 99.9% of the vote counted, both Bush and Gore have 48.9% of the vote. Gore down to 630 votes, and they will not be recounted. The candidate eliminated the request in writing that a recount not be done, or submitted a request in writing that a recount not be done. So that's it. That's striking stuff there, folks.
So is that, do you think that makes it increasingly unlikely we will hear from the Vice President this evening, James?
He must be considering it to solve. And with if it is truly 630 votes, I would suspect that we would want to leave the open for a recount and say something conditional subject to a recount. I congratulate Governor Bush or something.
I think you have to say something to those people who are in prison now. And assuming he will come out, he will say something, but probably wants to leave his options open.
We did. You took it back?
John Kennedy reported that in fact that the Gore campaign was voted for margins in 6,000, which is what Gore showed, but in fact 600. I assume later counts that we have 6 or 700 is what he said.
State Attorney General if you recall, has told First Amendment like their labor file but you listen to them.
I think you're talking when you are consumer presidency of the United States. You're done with that?
I'm told by Executive Administrator Secretary for the sitting discrepancy between the VNS, which is the numbers you're seeing here, discrepancies perhaps between those numbers, the numbers the Associated Press is reporting here, and numbers being reported by the Secretary of State, Mr. Butterworth. We just heard John Kennedy quote as having put it down to a 600 to 700 vote margin rather than 6,000. Actually, a little less than 6,000. No, 6,000. 6,100 vote margin this year. I have to say, I've been covering elections for 24 years. I've never seen anything like this.
Yes. And beyond yes, speechless is absolutely not this. I mean, this is the kind of election that,
600 gap there, Secretary of State. Well, look at the 600 was not in the presidency for 24 hours. And you can't take a look at it. Each state has its own rules, and those laws are people looking at it right now. There's a complicated rules about how you supervise writing ballots, who people usually get independent jurors come and look at each machine as it's reopened to see what the country's at. getting 630, not 600, sorry, 6,000 votes, but still probably enough to sort of increase the conflict. 600 votes is tiny.
They're still the only
0.01% to 600 votes.
The only votes left to be counted, according to these the information we have, is from the land focus area, which is your area. And everything else is all different then.
So technically, as you see, it's 99.9%.
So 99.9% is...
Well, it is, but remember, a lot of what we were talking about, what we're waiting for is a concession statement from Vice President Gore. What we've learned is that there's a question about the closeness of the race in Florida, and therefore, Mr. Gore's concession statement is not likely to be categorical. We assume that after Mr. Gore comes out and addresses these very faithful supporters, 5,000 in the neighbors, children, then Governor Bush in Austin will have something to say. We continue waiting, so if you're just getting up and wondering, don't these people know how to go to bed and go to sleep? No, in fact, we can't leave until we've heard from these two principals in this very historic political outcome in the United States presidential race for the White House.
Describe what the agreements literally the very military people and families coming forward in Michigan, and then when we found the war not, the Florida was not in war corner after all, slowly built up for George W. Bush at 2:18 this morning Eastern Time, our Navy called his presidency for George W. Bush. We were learning soon after that at 2:30. We were told later Al Gore called George Bush congratulated him, said he had a good campaign. Words to that effect. The crowds gathered. And here we are.
We're asking for words, but I cannot wait until inside politics is out in the air Wednesday, 5 Eastern Time, and I cannot wait to hear this morning's report.
On the telephone with us is a gentleman named Ed Cast, who is a Florida election official. Mr. Cast, can you first give us your title?
I'm the Assistant Division Director for Division of Elections.
And can you clarify for us exactly what the vote count is at this moment in Florida?
It's right now at 2,904,198 for Governor Bush, Mr. Cheney, and 2,902,988 for Vice President Gore and Mr. Lieberman.
And what is that separation? I'm doing quick subtraction myself. 13.
About 1,300 votes, is that right?
Is there a mechanism, Mr. Cast, by which the state of Florida would automatically do its own recount if the numbers, the candidate numbers were close enough together?
Yeah, the state requires an automatic recount unless the candidates tell us differently that they have less than 0.5%.
Now, Mr. Cast, less than 0.5%.
Yeah, 0.5% or less.
And are we at that point?
Yes. Overseas absentee ballots that will be coming in, and they'll be required to come in or allowed to come in up to 10 days as long as they're postmarked as of November 7th.
Now, excuse me, but based on your knowledge, can you estimate at all, roughly, how many of those votes we're talking about, even roughly?
No, I can't give you an estimate whatsoever, other than I can tell you that in 1996, there was roughly 2,200 of those that were counted in the 10-day count.
And what are you doing, Mr. Cash, to secure the ballots already counted throughout Florida?
The ballots are secured at the county level. I'm not quite sure I understand.
extra moves, given the seriousness of this situation, is your office making any extra move that you normally wouldn't make to ensure that everything stays in position so that when you conduct this recount?
No, the county supervisors of elections are responsible for that, and they're very used to recounts on other issues and other candidates and races. We still have a couple of counties that have not counted their absentee ballots anyway.
Then how many, you started to say, you still have overseas ballots, and you said it'll take 10 days to count those. What other ballots are still outstanding?
Well, there are some other counties that have not reported their absentee ballots that would normally have to be in their office by November 7th at 7 p.m.
Which counties?
As I look at our website, I see Citrus has not reported theirs, and Henry, Hillsborough, a couple of others, Okeechobee, looks like.
Where are those counties, if you can tell us, Mr. Cast? Are they up in the north? Are they in the Panhandle?
Well, they're really kind of spread all over the state.
There's no way you can characterize what...
No, I sure can't.
How many? Hillsborough is a large county.
Well, Hillsborough is, yeah.
What do you think of all this, Cass?
Well, it's 3:50 in the morning.
It's a state law that requires an automatic recount if the vote is under, what did you say, a half of 1%?
Less than half.
And unless you said the candidates request otherwise.
Well, there's a provision in there that candidate notifies us that they don't wish to recount them.
But we can presume that's not the case this time.
Okay, Mr. Cass, I just want to review the bidding, okay? Because we may be talking about the outcome of the presidential election here. Right now, Governor Bush is leading Vice President Gore by, we think, it's 1,310 votes, if Judy's math is right. You got 20, roughly, based on the past, a couple of thousand overseas absentee ballots and an unknown number of absentee ballots from Hillsborough and a couple of other counties. Is that right?
That's correct.
So, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but is it a fair statement that we do not yet know who those votes are?
That you can see in the 11 rows of given speech. I'll take that as part of the sign. And if there are these people here,
It's 10 votes separating them, and that's without. In other words, if 600 votes in either direction could change it. Maybe that's what Mr. Butterworth is referring to. But that's without the overseas ballots, which you, Mr. Cass, said in 1996 when you said it was 2,200.
That's correct.
And then the absentee ballots from the counties that you listed here, Henry, Citrus, and some others. Would you assume those run in the dozens, the hundreds, or the thousands?
I would not even hazard a guess.
Are you telling us that none of the absentee ballots have been counted in those counties?
No, it's not that none of them.
Some of them. So it's not the full absentee
what
ballot.
are you hearing from your other colleagues up and down the state? Are you folks talking to each other tonight, or what?
We have talked to the supervisors of elections and some of their staff just as a matter of course for the night. A lot of their reporting is done via file transfers and internet reporting, so it's kind of an automatic update thing. But we've talked to them.
What are they saying?
It's been a lot of work, and it's been a very heavy turnout.
What are I assume you've been doing this for some time, Mr. Cast, working in the elections division. What are the odds that there could have been a miscount somewhere here?
I've only actually been in the elections division for 5 years.
There was just one big one.
As far as the miscount, I really couldn't tell you. I know in the last presidential elections, well, the last gubernatorial election, we didn't have a problem with miscounts or problems of that nature.
Ed Cass, tell us what happens tomorrow now. What procedures, what steps, given what's...
Tomorrow the counties will start their canvas and do their official reporting. They'll provide us with all their official results that will include the initial absentee ballot. We'll consolidate all 67 counties and come up with a state canvas report and issue that. And then 10 days later, we'll come up with a second canvas that will be only record those overseas absentee ballots.
And how long would it take to conduct a recount, Mr. Cass?
If we're thrown into a recount, or if there is a recount, they'll start that just as soon as we notify them, which will probably be first thing tomorrow morning.
And how long would that take?
I'm sorry, I do not know.
But is it days, hours? I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out here.
Yeah, that part just depends on the situation.
Well, wouldn't it be a minimum of 10 days if you have your 67 counties filing a consolidated report, then you have a canvas report, and then you said 10 days later you have a second canvas report? Wouldn't there still be a 10-day separation? Did we lose that, Cass?
Just quickly to recap.
Make sure it's correct. Terry, we were just told that in Dade County that workers have been called back to work to recount the absentee ballots. I know that you've got people on the ground in Florida. They're talking to the officials there. What are you hearing?
Well, there's all kinds of talk in Florida. Several boxes were not counted down in Florida. We need to make sure, Tom, that all those great voters out there who voted for Al Gore, who want to make sure he's the next president, everybody's counted, and that the next president of the United States is done by a majority of the voters out there in the country.
Was it the vice president's idea? Reaction that Vice President Gore had after making a concession at the national level right now, just to refresh ourselves on where the numbers are. Look at this, 94% of the precincts are in. The motion
151,000 votes out of 92.7 million. Nixon territory.
Robert Novak in Washington, wake up.
Whoa.
Bob Novak?
Yes.
What are you thinking about?
Well, listen, I was
Retracted his senator retracted the concession he made by telephone to Governor Bush not so very long ago.
Campaign Chair Bill Daley is expected to speak to this crowd in Nashville. We don't have any idea when that will take place. I'm hoping soon, sometime within this hour, where we can see all of us just fine.
Let's go to Michael.
This is tightened down too close. Talk of recounts all over the place. Talk of, quote, discrepancies, quote, unquote, for one Dade County official. And it's just a confused and chaotic situation in terms of doing the actual vote count. But having said all that, this is the United States of America, and at some point, somebody is going to get a full vote count.
You're looking at a live picture from Nashville, Tennessee. Any of you folks who are with us right now, I'm sure, are also surfing through the channels and know what the situation is, which is that this race is quite a cliffhanger. And in fact, CBS News has put Florida back into the undecided column. And we are just going to continue watching this event here and then also show you what it looks like in Austin, where the supporters there are also waiting for some sort of word as to the outcome of the presidential election. And as this is all worked out, we're just going to continue our live coverage of these events. We hear that in about 2-3 minutes, Bill Daley will be speaking to Vice President Gore's supporters in Nashville, Tennessee. Mr. Daley is serving as the general chairman of the campaign. So if that takes place, many of these events have been pushed back as we await results. But when he comes out, you'll hear what he has to say. And in the interim, we'll keep watching these two events in the two capital cities and keep you apprised as much as we know as these voting questions get settled. Thanks for being with us in our continuing coverage.
You've seen presidents be rejected and politicians in the past. A lot of them fall apart. You see, this is it's a tough game, but it hurts just as much for them when they lose as it does for anybody who was rejected. And I'm just feeling that they're both on tenterhooks. We've pulled them from one end to the other tonight, and it's a sad thing right now.
It is, but having said all that, and I quite agree with you, this is very tough for the families to go through, very tough for the candidates to go through, very tough for the people in these campaigns who pour their heart and soul into these things. But let's have some perspective. Walking the beat has a lot of pressure. Salesman trying to meet his quota has a lot of pressure. So while there's empathy, even sympathy for these two candidates, let's keep in mind that they chose to do this and that everybody has their pressures, and these are the pressures that go with putting politics at the top, just as certain unique pressures go with...
I think we're in a position to say who has won Florida with any certainty yet. I mean, it is absolutely unprecedented. North
That is exactly it right now. We have been visiting with the Division of Elections, their spokesperson there, checking out their website. Here it is. 100% of the precincts all are in here in the state of Florida. The difference right now, 1,210 votes. The difference still in the Bush corner. Big news right now. We're still trying to break down exactly where those final precincts were coming in from. But right now, at 100% of a vote in the state of Florida, the difference is 1,210 votes in favor of Texas Governor George W. Bush.
Now, Orlando, does that include all absentee ballots that have so far been received?
That includes practically all of them. We still do believe that they may have a few stragglers, as we said, in the counties just a short while ago, possibly Hendry, Hillsborough, and Citrus counties. But as far as the specific breakdown, Britt, I can't tell you that for sure, but they are telling us right now 100% is in. They're sticking by that number. The Division of Elections here in Florida is sticking by their number of 100%. They're saying that right now, let me see here, Gore's got 2,904,198. Gore, 2,902,988. 2 million rather, yes. The difference again, 1,210 votes. Still going in Bush's call.
All right, let's get an update now from Jim Angle in Nashville. Jim?
Hello, Britt. Well, Bob Butterworth, the Attorney General of Florida, is...
If I could, I have some news to share with all of you tonight. Let me say, I've been in politics a very long time, but I don't think there's ever been a night like this one. Just an hour or so ago, the TV networks called this race for Governor Bush. It now appears that their call was premature. Let me be very clear about this. According to the information supplied by the Secretary of State of Florida, with 99.9% of the vote counted, there is a margin of only about 1,200 votes out of millions cast, with over 5,000 votes left to be counted. This is a very significant, for most important reason, and that is, for under Florida state law, this triggers an automatic recount, and as everyone knows in America, this race has come down to the state of Florida. Without being certain of the results in Florida, we simply cannot be certain of the results of this national election. Let me add that Vice President Gore and Senator Lieberman are fully prepared to concede and to support Governor Bush if and when he is officially elected president. But this race is simply too close to call. And until the recount is concluded and the results in Florida become official, our campaign continues. Let me thank all of you on behalf of Vice President Al Gore and Senator Joe Lieberman for waiting out here so late tonight, and we hope to have you back very soon. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you in the morning.
You're number one. Recount. You're going to be the president of the United States of America. Woo! Woo! Number one, number one. Alcohol Lieberman. Alcohol Lieberman. Alcohol Lieberman. Number one.
Never give up. We need all the Bring it home, Elvis. Bring it home. The king has spoken. Elvis. Yes, very Please don't announce these results before noon. I will not be here before noon.
You probably heard the chairman of the Gore campaign, Bill Daley, encouraging people to disperse because it's going to be a while before the results are known. We're going to leave Nashville for a while and take you to Austin, Texas, to show you what the scene looks like there, where people are awaiting the same information all the rest of us are, as who is the winner of this presidential race. In fact, we've heard that Don Evans, who is the campaign chairman for Governor Bush, is expected to come out and speak to supporters there in the next 10-15 minutes. And if he does that, you'll see it live on this network. Other information we have is that in Florida, the Attorney General, Bob Butterworth, will be holding a press conference to talk about the count in that state, which is the linchpin to this whole entire situation. We're going to be watching for a few minutes, and we're going to give you the phone numbers because I'm sure you would like to react to this historic event this evening. 202-624-1111 for Republicans, Democrats 202-624-1115, and Independents, third party 202-737-6734. We're going to watch for a bit and then come back and take some calls.
hints that maybe Gore surpassing Bush?
You know, we don't know what the remaining 5% of the votes are, and where they come from, and some of them are going to be absentee ballots. These things don't go in trend. They have to do with where the votes are located that haven't yet been counted. But I point out that Patrick County got about 500,000 votes there. It was just 0% of the national vote total. So he got about 500,000 votes. Which I think George Bush may be looking at and saying he could use some of those Patrick County votes.
Well, you know, we've been on the air for 12 hours in less than 45 minutes. We started at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It is not quite. Well, we were reporting to you around the world. The emphasis was on 3 words: cut out, cut out, cut out. This just confirms it. It confirms it about yourself. It also confirms the might and the muscle and the effort of organizers of the National Rifle Association, of civil rights groups, of special interest groups that have spent more than what? $3 billion total as a cost of this election. And this election will be in history books forever. Over 100 years from now, we're learning every vote counts. Look what happened in 2000. Everyone since 1960. I was the reporter in the Chicago Bureau of Newsweek in 1960. So we had all those precincts missing on the west side of Chicago, but also in downstate Illinois. We knew that the Democrats at Chicago and downstate had the Republican precincts missing. And all those dead people voted. Yeah, well, it wasn't so much that in those days. It was just where were those precincts and what was happening to them. This is even, that was, had maintained a corruption to it. This does not, but this is even more bizarre. Never have we seen anything like this in the entire history of the country. There in Florida, along with the absentees missing, the only county that is not totally complete right now in our model is Broward, which I remind you is Gore territory. So there's every reason in the world for Bill Daley to do exactly what he did.
Well, why? That's a little confusing to us now because at least some of us thought we heard the Florida elections officials say that all counties were in. I didn't say that.
I heard him say that too. But when you look at our model, that all of the networks are using, every county except Broward is complete at this time. That's the one place where there still are some votes out. But he's also right in saying that I think most of it is on the absentees.
Broward County is what area?
Broward County is Fort Lauderdale, and it's between Miami and Palm Beach, and it's heavily Democratic. We said very early in the evening, this is the area where a Democrat has to have a huge margin in order to win the state of Florida. Al, when the election, when the registrar that we heard reporting, would his count be more complete? Could it be more complete than the network count that you're talking about? You would think that it would be more complete than the network count. Okay. But with all that's going on right now, you can't be sure of anything.
This may be a good time to put just a couple of points on because we do not want to be in a position of communicating any information. I think that all we can say is that the official on the scene has given us numbers he represented were a complete vote except for the numbers we've been talking about, except for the overseas absentee ballot, except for some absentee ballots in the counties that he mentioned.
Where are those counties? That's over around the Tampa area, and that would be...
Well, we're in that waiting period as the country is, until we know more definitively the results, and no time frame really available. But we're going to listen to some calls because this is a night unlike any of us have seen, and we thought you'd like to react to it. Let's hear first from Meadowview, Virginia, Republican line. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, ma'am. I was just calling in to say that I'm pretty happy that Bush is ahead, if only by a few votes, and I wish him luck. I think we need him to get in the office to straighten out the country, straighten out the Constitution that Clinton and Gore have worked so hard to destroy, and I'm ashamed to say that I am a United Steelworkers member, and that will end just as soon as the opportunity arises.
Thank you. Memphis, Tennessee, a Democrat.
Last night when I first heard that Florida had won in the category for Gore, and then they came back and retracted, I knew it's something funny going on about this election. I believe J.L. Bush and the Florida Republicans trying to steal this election for George W. Bush. And we got some funny things going on in Memphis, Tennessee. A lot of my friends went to the polls to vote, even though they're Democrats, even though their name was on the rolls last year and the year before last. When they went to vote yesterday, their name wasn't even on it. Wasn't even on the roll. And the election was close in Tennessee. There's some funny things going on in this election. I think we need to investigate this thing. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Pittsburgh on our independent line.
Hi. Yeah, I'm an independent, and actually I'm a libertarian, and I voted for Harry Brown. I believe in what Harry has to say, but I was also voting for NOTA, neither of the above. And I'm elated to see that the race is this close, that these guys are staying up sweating as to who's going to win. I think they need to be told that if they're going to get my vote, they better change their act. Neither of them showed up at the Judicial Watch debate on ethics in government. Apparently, they don't want to discuss ethics. Neither of them have told the truth about this so-called surplus. They want to save Social Security by spending Social Security money in advance of baby boomers getting on the rolls. So in good conscience, I couldn't vote for either one of them, and I voted for the only guy that made sense to me.
Thank you. Forks, Washington is next, a Republican. You're on the air, caller.
Thank you very much for your coverage tonight. We really appreciate it. But do you know the outcome of the Washington vote? I'll hang up now. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next is East Providence, Rhode Island, a Democrat.
Yes, hi.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Fred. What a night this is. I'm up right now listening to this, and it's been seesawing back and forth. I have a problem with the state of Florida regarding the fact that Florida has a large military population there. And the military, I was in the military for 20 years. In your military record, you have a legal resident, and that's the only state you're supposed to vote in. And I'm concerned that I know the Bush-Cheney team was wooing a lot of military. And I kind of think that up in the Pensacola, Jacksonville area, where there is a large military contingent, that possibly the military went ahead and registered to vote in Florida, when in fact the military record has a legal resident. Now, I know they're domiciled there temporarily on military duty, but I kind of think that they're not supposed to vote in that state. They're only supposed to vote in a legal resident state. Now, I know this recount is not going to really identify that, but I kind of think it's something that they should look into since the vote is so close.
Thanks very much. For our caller that wanted to know about Washington state results, according to voter.com on the internet, 51% for Al Gore. This is 11 electoral college votes at stake. 44% for George W. Bush, and 4% for Ralph Nader, 1% for Harry Brown. And in the Slade-Gorton-Cantwell Senate race, it was 49 to 48% for Maria Cantwell. And we're going to take you now to Austin, Texas. You can see Don Evans, who is the general chairman of the campaign, making his way to the stage. So let's watch.
Bill Daley's campaign counterpart, he's the campaign chairman for Texas Governor Bush, coming out to have a statement of reaction.
He had to prepare remarks, and you should point out the story that's pretty very small, but the first lady of the United States was elected to the United States Senate in the state of New York. Many of us thought that would be almost as big a story after this election. Maybe.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all very much.
Governor Bush and Secretary Cheney asked me to thank you for all your terrific support and hard work. We hope and believe we have elected the next President of the United States. The latest vote count in the state of Florida shows Governor Bush winning that state by more than 1,200 votes. They're still counting, and I'm confident when it's all said and done, we will prevail. Thank you again for all your hard work and all of your efforts, and we look forward to a great celebration. God bless.
Well, it was a very brief update from Don Evans saying what we know, which is that we don't know much yet as the recount, or as the counting, continues with the focus on Florida. We're going to go to calls once again. Next is Fargo, North Dakota. Fargo, you are on the air on our independent line. Go ahead.
My name's Richard. I was calling. Hey, why you got to push me for it?
You have a comment, Richard?
Yes, I work for the union. The union gave me a letter saying that Bush wants to cancel the unions or something like that.
And? I mean, do you believe it?
That's a bunch of bull.
And who did you vote for?
I voted for Gore.
And what do you think about tonight's events?
I think I'm going to move to Canada if Gore don't win.
Okay, thanks very much. Havelock, North Carolina, Republican.
Yes, my name is Michael Wheeler. I'm a sergeant, United States Marine Corps. I'm a father of three. And I've served in the Marine Corps for almost 8 years, and I love the Corps, and I love the United States, and I love the Marine Corps. And my entire future in the Marine Corps depends on the fact that Bush becomes the President of the United States. If he doesn't, I'm going to get out and join the civilian world, because I can't follow or serve a man that I don't trust, and I don't trust Gore, just like I don't trust Clinton. He's two-faced, and he just doesn't have the skills that it takes to be the commander-in-chief of my military.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Tampa, Florida is next, a Democrat.
Hi, I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I have not been a Bush supporter. One of the reasons is a lot of things that have been going on in Florida under Jeb don't make me feel very comfortable about the Bush campaigns and what's going on with the Bushes themselves. And now with ballot boxes being missing and 50,000 votes not being counted, and they've had the whole day to do this, I find this awfully, awfully strange. This is just the beginning of the new regime if Bush wins.
Tehachapi, California, an independent voter.
Oh, CSPAN?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very, very much for being the voice of America. And what I wanted to say about this other that has just happened with in Florida. Now, I voted it today, and I'm in Tehachapi, California, and the polls closed at 8 o'clock. But yet at 10:20, they said Gore won California. So I haven't been able, and I've been channel surfing to get information on that. And also, I was surfing on ABC News with Sam Donaldson, Peter Jennings, and everything. And right when Gore had called Bush, saying he won and everything, then they started spinning about how the Democrats won't work with him and blah, blah, blah. And also Corky Roberts, in her speech, she was saying after the votes went up to 271, please be patient with me, 271 votes, well, Corky Roberts still said if Bush is president. So what I want to tell the American people is get involved, not just at election time, but all through the year. Read the papers, watch C-SPAN, be informed, and don't wait until the last minute to vote. and listen to all the spin masters and everything, because we have to depend on more, even though C-SPAN is our lifeline. And
well, caller, thanks. We're going to move on. Appreciate your comments. And Steve Scully, you are at the internet. That caller is looking for more information in California, a state where there's still a few percentage points being counted, right?
There is, Susan, and just to give you it really is amazing, the closeness of this race. These are the latest numbers in the Bush-Gore race, with about 95% of the vote now reported in. This is from voter.com, Susan. And there is only about a 3,300 vote difference between Governor Bush and Vice President Al Gore, with Governor Bush currently ahead, 49% to 48% for Vice President Gore, and Ralph Nader, for those of you who have been following, getting about 2.5 million votes, just about 3%, again with 95% of the vote currently in. Susan?
Thank you, sir. Victoria, Texas, next Republican.
Hi, my name is Sharon, and I am in Victoria, Texas. I just want to say that I hope that Governor Bush has won. He was the lesser of two evils. Because I'm afraid I have no respect, and most people that I've talked to have no respect for the President of the United States. It's a very sad thing.
And you see Mr. Gore as an extension of Mr. Clinton?
Well, that I can't say, because I do believe that he has been tainted by the brush that put the tar there. There's too many underhanded deals going on, and I feel like we were sold out through the Clinton administration.
Thanks. Thanks for your comments. San Diego, you're next, and you're a Democrat. What do you think about what's transpiring?
Well, I've been watching this whole scenario play out on like all 5 networks switching around. So I've been watching it for like close to 6 or so hours, going from jubilation to anger to getting ready to move to Canada once I heard Bush was going to be elected, God forbid.
Well, you can be sure you're always going to remember the night, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I was also thinking, so now I get to sleep better tonight knowing that there's a good chance that Gore will win, so that way. And it kind of disheartened me to find out that so many people voted for Bush, and it's kind of like some evidence that our education system has been we have been failing our education system. When I see that many people being fooled by a man putting on a mask in order to get elected. But
so, are you going to give up and go to bed at this point? Wait and see how it all works out.
I'll watch for maybe another hour or so and watch how the popular vote is playing, and it's kind of I'm really encouraged by the fact that Gore is pulling even with Bush in the popular vote, in which people thought Bush would win and Gore would win the electoral. So I believe with the popular vote going more towards Gore, I think hopefully the electoral vote will work out for a Gore administration also.
Well, thanks for calling. Algonquin, Illinois is next, and this person's an independent. Good morning to you.
Kudos to C-SPAN. I'm a C-SPAN junkie. Got a couple comments. First of all, I've been hearing back and forth flipping. They were talking about the Senate race being 50-50 and Cheney or Lieberman.
Which Senate race are you talking about?
I mean, the Senate.
The Senate overall, the numbers?
The U.S. Senate being 50-50 and the deciding vote to the House or the chairmanships going to Cheney. Well, I think everybody forgets about McCain here. Don't you think he'll have a little part in this? Also, Jeb Bush, and this thing going with Florida now, wasn't his wife get caught not coming back into this country with duty-free items, and she didn't want to tell Jeb because she didn't want to embarrass him, or that's paying taxes, and George with not wanting to hurt his children. I mean, it's Clinton. I'm a Democrat, but I voted for Ralph Nader. I'm a Nader supporter, and I'm glad I did. I apologize for being loose. And then you made a comment earlier to one lady about what do you like about Nader. I kind of feel, what don't you like about him? Just because he doesn't, and this isn't personally to you, but what can't you like about him just because he doesn't dress stylish? I mean, he says everything that this country needs, and he's backed it up, I believe.
That wasn't a comment, it was a question.
I mean, I'm sorry.
It makes a big difference.
I agree with you. I agree. I know I wasn't meaning personal that to criticize you. I was just wondering, I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of a question. I don't know why people, what couldn't you like about him? I mean, I don't know what doesn't appeal to him other than he's not maybe hip and that, but he says all the right things, and he's done it for 35 years. I don't know what people are worried about or afraid of. I think this country needs a change.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Longview, Washington is next.
Hi.
Hi, calling on the Republican line.
Yes, I just called to say I appreciate your coverage. I wasn't watching C-SPAN 4 years ago or even 8 years ago, so I don't know how all things came through then. I find it kind of comical that those folks that want Gore as president are whining because the Republican may win. We've gone through 8 years of having to put up with that, and you didn't find us running off to Canada. The other thing I'd like to say is I personally feel, even though I voted as a Republican, I feel that Ralph Nader should have been involved in the debates. And I really do feel that way. I feel that more people would have gotten more votes. He might have gotten way more support if people knew more of what he stood for. I know he was on your channel, he was on Fox, but he was involved in the debates, and I felt that that should have happened. And appreciate your coverage, and we'll see how it all falls out.
We certainly will. Thanks for watching. Next call is from Stockton, California, a Democrat.
Hi. I'm grateful for C-SPAN also. My comments have to do with George Bush and the issue of character. He's portrayed himself as a high character kind of guy, and I think if you did nothing but listen to his campaign this time, you might be fooled. But I have read a lot about him. I've read his record, and I've read books about him, both pro and con, and about Gore also. And this guy is not who he seems to be. In his oil dealings, he had dealings with people who later showed up in BCCI. He's done things that are just on the edge of unethical or illegal. And I don't think he's who he appears to be at all. I think his real character has leaked out sometimes, like in that interview he did with Tucker Carlson, where he mimicked Carla Faye Tucker for begging for her life, after he decided to go ahead and do her execution. Then he mimicked her, and him calling that senior official an AH in front of millions of people. I think the real Bush has yet to come out, and I hope we don't see what he's really like.
Next call is also from California, this time Palmdale, and a Republican.
Yes, I'm a Republican, but I decided to vote for Gore this time. I think he's more qualified, and the job is not really on-the-job training type of position. It's good that this election is so close, I think, because it'll encourage more Americans to get out and vote, and that's really something we need to do. But overall, I think that it's best for the country if Gore moves ahead. And I think the Republicans, even though I'm a Republican, we're just too hypocritical, because the way we criticize Clinton, a lot of the things that the Republicans are doing, just as bad. They just aren't in the light.
Thanks. Next is a call from New Mexico, and the town is Abiquiu. You're on the air.
Yes, hi. I'd like to echo what I've just heard from some of the other people. I'm also a registered Republican. I voted for Al Gore because I believe that he is the best man to, and he and Mr. Lieberman, to lead this nation right now. And I've also done my homework, research on the Bush family in general. I also feel very, very sad that so many Americans don't appreciate the good job that Clinton has done. His personal life and those mistakes that he made, they were wrong. But the bottom line is he's done right by the nation. We put him there to do the job. He did the job, and we should be grateful. And we should also keep in mind that the Republicans wasted a lot of tax dollars going after this man and putting he and his family and this nation through a lot of dues and made us look bad with the people overseas.
Before you go, I was just looking at New Mexico results, and looks like you've got a squeaker of your own in the state in House District 1, Heather Wilson's race.
Well, I'm not that familiar with that. I'm from Nevada originally, and I've moved here a short period of time. So actually my vote was absentee into Nevada. So I'm not really, that familiar with the local politics. I am familiar with Pete Domenici. I have followed his career, and I'm not a big fan of his either. But I can't give you more details on, a lot of the local people. It would be unfair.
Okay, well, thanks. Let me tell the audience about this. There are 3 House districts in New Mexico, and all 2 of the 3 are held by incumbent Democrats. One, Tom Udall, who won handily, it looks like, with 67-33. Joe Skeen in District 2, 59-41, with 99%, or rather 92% of the precincts reporting. But the Heather Wilson race, which is the 1st district in New Mexico, with 99% of the precincts reporting, is 46-46, and looks like 63,935 for Ms. Wilson and 64,357 for John Kelly, the Democrat. So another real close race there for the House. Next call is from Palm Desert, California. A Republican caller. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Catherine from Palm Desert. Last Wednesday, I watched the special order speeches on the Congress floor, and I saw Representative J.D. Hayworth and Kurt Weldon speak about the secret deal that Al Gore made with the Russian Prime Minister. And this was a secret deal that he made behind the U.S. Congress back, behind our back, and it was treason because he made it to keep the secret, to keep the flow of advanced weapon technologies flowing to Russia, even though Russia was also sending them to Iran and Iraq. Now, this is something that I don't understand how all the people that voted for Al Gore can't wake up and see the difference between George Bush. Now, George Bush, 26 years ago, maybe made some little small mistake and was driving drunk, compared to Al Gore, who followed along the legacy of Clinton in this treasonistic method. This is something that we American people need to stand up and make these people stand up for, come out and answer for. And also the media has got to start, stop blacking this stuff out. I understand the New York Times printed it, the Washington Post printed it, but from there I heard that it was pretty much a blackout. And I feel confident that George Bush has won this election. But if he hasn't, I'd be the first to flood my congressman with impeachment for Al Gore.
Thanks for your call. J.D. Hayworth, by the way, will be returning to Congress with a comfortable margin. In Arizona 6, they have 2/3 of the votes, which are already in, and looks like he's leading by 62-35% against his Democratic challenger. Next call is from Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and it's on our independent line. Well, what do you think of what's transpiring?
I can't believe what's been going on tonight. It's pretty crazy. First of all, Gore is going out and saying that, first of all, we need campaign finance reform. After this election, I'm kind of thinking we might need some political voting reform when everyone goes to the election booths on the first Tuesday for their presidential election. That's the first point I have. The second point would be I am for Bush, but no matter who wins this race, this is a democracy. Whoever goes, everyone who goes and votes, they go vote for who gets the office. And the man who gets that office, we appoint in our democracy. And what has to happen, no matter how close this race is, bipartisanship is going to run this country for the next 4 years. And hopefully, people who see this election, it's going to wake up America and make them realize that they have to go out and vote and have to take part in politics in order to make a difference in this country. That's all I have to say.
Well, caller, did you follow the Senate race in Minnesota?
I did. We'll follow that very much.
Yeah, we had a Republican incumbent who lost his seat there, Rod Grams. What do you think happened?
I was watching some of the local coverage, and with Rod Grams, a lot of them were saying that he ran maybe a too conservative race compared to the newcomer Mark Dayton. Mark Dayton, the Democrat, I'm pushing for Bush. I guess we'll see what happens.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Hayward, California, Republican. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a United States Navy veteran, and I'm just going to let you know real quick that I have seen from the inside the sad state of affairs that our military is in. And I picked George W., because he would be the military leader that we need at this point. I'm not taking any credit away from Gore. I think both men were gentlemen and acted as gentlemen and are of, very high character. But right now, the state of the world calls for the level of leadership that we would get out of Bush. So we really need him to beef up our military and just get things going the way they were again before Reagan left.
Thank you. California, one of those states with a Senate race, and the incumbent, Dianne Feinstein, had a comfortable margin of victory over her Republican House challenger, Tom Campbell, with about 87% of the precincts reporting in the Senate race. AP says the margin is 56 to 37. Next telephone call is also, is a Democrat, and this time from Marine City, Michigan. Go ahead.
Hello.
You're on the air.
Yeah, I'm really sickened by the outcome of this election. People voting for Bush, they can't see through his cute little act. And I mean, my sideburns are flaring out. I'm getting really mad. It's unbelievable. Gore was going to carry on what Clinton started, and now Bush is just going to undo all of his work. It's outrageous. I don't know. It reflects the ignorance of the entire American public. I'm really outraged by it. I just hope this goes right, though, for Gore. And that just shows some more ignorance of the American public. We can't even count our own votes, and it's outrageous.
Thanks very much. Steve Scully, are you available?
I sure am, Susan.
Michigan is one of those states with a real close Senate race. Is there any more information about Spence Abraham, Debbie Stabenow?
It has not been declared yet. With about 84% of the results in Michigan, Debbie Stabenow is up about 1 percentage point. I don't have hard numbers, but the percentage is based on what Voter.com has is giving the race at this point to Debbie Stabenow, but that is still about 16% of the vote in Michigan not accounted for. Voter.com has declared the late Mel Carnahan the winner in Missouri over John Ashcroft, who was seeking another term, with 51 to 49% of the vote. And in Washington, Maria Cantwell declared the winner over Slade Gordon. We, in fact, do have a list of the new Senate members which we can go through. Bill Nelson, Democrat in Florida, picking up that seat. Senator Connie Mack retiring after a couple of terms in Florida. George Allen, Republican, former governor, who defeated Chuck Robb tonight. John Corzine, who spent well over $50 million in New Jersey, winning over Bob Franks in what was a relatively close race, only 2 or 3 percentage points between the two. Governor Tom Carper, who defeated Bill Roth in Delaware. Mark Dayton, a Democrat, who picked up that seat in Minnesota. He defeated Rod Grams. Of course, the First Lady, Hillary Clinton, winning in New York State. And Maria Cantwell, we just talked about that a moment ago, in Washington. So the incumbents who lost in the U.S. Senate yesterday include the following: Senator Chuck Robb, Senator Rod Grams, Senator Bill Roth, and Senator Slade Gordon. Susan, one other thing, we've been showing scenes from both Austin and Nashville. We've been on the phone with the pool, who is now telling us that the stage that was set up in both Austin and Nashville will more than likely stay in place through tomorrow. They're getting permits extended in both cities to make sure that if something does happen in either of those cities, the press and the campaigns are prepared for that. And we're also on the phone with the Secretary of State in Tallahassee. We're told that there could be a news conference sometime this morning. It could come in the next half hour. It could come as late as 9 o'clock this morning. And, of course, if it happens, we'll try to get that brought to our audience live.
Thanks.
So that's what we know now.
Our next telephone call is from Maryland. Just took a look at Maryland's results, and Maryland sent all of its incumbents, its senator, who is Paul Sarbanes, and all of its House members, and there are 8 of them, back to the Congress for a new term. Gaithersburg, what's on your mind about the election?
Oh, good morning, Susan. You look great for 4 in the morning, 5
Actually,
in the morning, whatever time
5.
it is. Yeah, it's getting late. I thought the races were came out the way I thought, pretty much. It was interesting that Connie Morella seemed to distance herself a little bit from the Republican Party in her ads. They never mentioned she was a Republican, and they called her an independent thinker. But
they spent a lot of money in that race, didn't they, with Terry Learman?
Yeah, and she's a good candidate. I just want to say this evening has just been incredible. It's been full of ironies, in terms of Tennessee and Arkansas. I think these candidates are awful. The American electorate had a chance to put up candidates that have a lot more character in Bill Bradley and in John McCain, and they didn't do it. The American electorate's just really out of touch, and so many voters just, it's vote what their parents voted or what their friends vote, and don't know the issues. It's really a shame, but you got to take the good with the bad in life, and this sure was an incredible night of election. It'll go down in history as probably one of the greatest.
Have you been up all night watching?
Oh yeah. I'm an info junkie and a C-SPAN fan.
So you have to go to work tomorrow?
Not till late, actually. I don't have to see a client till lunch, and he'll be understanding and have a little later work, so I'll be okay.
Well, that's a good thing, because among all those political junkies out there, it's going to be bleary eyes at the offices, I think, tomorrow. Thanks very much for calling us. Lake Village, Indiana, a Republican, and what's your reaction to what you're hearing tonight?
Hi, Susan. You look absolutely radiant for being up all night here.
Oh, please.
And also,
it's due to caffeine, I think.
Okay, and I want to just thank you and Brian and all the C-SPAN staff. You've been terrific throughout this whole thing. My comment is, there's one that hasn't really been made on the air. At least I haven't heard it, and that is, this election is not about Al Gore, and this election is not about Bush, but this election is about God, and it's about Lord Jesus Christ, and He will reign. And it says, if my people will seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then He's going to heal the land. And I think this is He's given America a last chance to be healed. And He's using Bush. I believe He's going to get in, and I believe He's going to use Bush. Not that Bush is perfect, and not that Bush hasn't made mistakes, but I believe his heart is toward God, and I believe he's sincere in that, Susan. But he will make mistakes, yes, and it's not going to make any difference who gets in office. The light is going to get lighter, the dark is going to get darker. And the people will all end up bowing to the Lord Jesus Christ when that time does come. And I do believe very, very strong that America, they're to wake up America. And the Christians, I speak to the Christians all across the land, that wake up, because there's blood on our hands with the abortion. And I'm not against gay people, but I am against what they stand for. It said it's an abomination to our God. And there is no separation of God and state. There is no separation at all. I tell you now, there is no separation of God and state. And God is in charge, and He is in control. And there's going to be a revival throughout the land. And you watch and you see this come forth, my daughter. You watch and you see this come forth. You watch and you see this come forth.
Caller, at that point, let me jump in. Thanks for calling and for sharing your views at this early hour of the morning. Lots of enthusiasm there. Let's return to Steve Scully for some more statistics.
Miami Herald website, too close to call, and a picture of a Gore supporter on its website. You asked earlier, though, about the Michigan Senate race, Susan, and these are some hard numbers. Only about 17,000 votes between Spence Abraham, who spent in excess of $16 million, compared to Debbie Stabenow's about $6 million in that race. And currently, with 76% of the vote in Michigan, Debbie Stabenow holding on to a very narrow lead. Bob Benenson, by my count, it was about 9 hours ago that we first started to talk with you. What have you learned in the last couple of hours about some of these Senate races?
Well, I've learned that election nights can be very long, and that the elections can be very close. What we've learned is that the Democrats had a rather good night in the Senate races, and that if this Michigan race holds up the way it's currently going, with Democrat Debbie Stabenow, the challenger, en route to unseating Republican Senator Spencer Abraham, we're going to have a 50-50 tie in the United States Senate. Now, that means that if the Republicans hold on to their amazingly slim lead for the presidency, then Dick Cheney will be there to break ties. If the Democrats hold the White House, it means that Joe Lieberman will be there to break ties. And of course, if Joe Lieberman becomes the vice president, his seat will go to the Republican parties because of the vacancy, but that's a whole another step down the road from where we are now. It just goes to show how little consensus there was tonight, how little sense of any kind of majority party there was, that the Democrats were able to make substantial gains in the United States Senate at the same time that the Republicans may or may not be winning the White House.
Bob Benenson, let me ask you a question about a 50-50 tie situation in the United States Senate. Does that put an awful lot of negotiating power into the hands of individual members who could constantly be threatening to walk to the other side of the aisle for votes or committee chairmanships or that sort of thing?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not sure. Obviously, it certainly gives some members on the fringes of both parties some bargaining power, some negotiating position. There aren't any obvious party switchers anymore. What party switchers we had after the Republicans first gained control of Congress in the 1994 elections, they did their thing a long time ago. We're looking at Dick Shelby. We're looking at Ben Nighthorse Campbell of Colorado, Dick Shelby of Alabama. So there's just no Democrats that you can think of who are automatically going to consider making that jump. In fact, the Democrats have really been able to maintain significant party unity since Tom Daschle became the minority leader, and they've been able to maintain a lot of influence and stop a lot of Republican-sponsored legislation in its tracks. On the Republican side, it's the same thing. There are some moderates. There are people like Olympia Snowe of Maine, but she was re-elected today by practically a 2-to-1 margin, running as a Republican. Would she be one who would consider making the jump because of personal, an increase in her personal clout? It's hard to imagine. Lincoln Chafee, who was re-elected today. He was re-elected as a Republican. He was elected as a Republican, I should say, to succeed to a full term after being the interim senator appointed after his father John Chafee's death. He's got the most liberal record amongst Senate Republicans, but after being re-elected as a Republican with a lot of help from the Republican Party, including financial help, advertising help in his campaign, that wouldn't be likely. What it does give them is legislative clout. When there are big issues to be decided, the conservative leadership in the Senate would have to pay much more attention to the moderate wing of the Republican Party to get things done. And the same thing with the Democrats. If the Democrats wound up somehow with a leadership position in the Senate, they'd have to listen more to their southern conservative wing.
And Bob Benison, let me go back to Missouri, because now the results in that state, about 32,000 vote difference with the late Mel Carnahan winning that seat. Legally, what will happen if these numbers hold?
Legally, the Republican, just before the election, there were certain Republicans who were quoted by certain journalists who said, we are definitely going to challenge this in some way. We're either going to go to court and say that Mel Carnahan, because he was deceased, was not a candidate of legal standing, and therefore the vote for him, in the votes cast for him in excess of those of the Republican incumbent John Ashcroft, were in some way not legitimate. There were others that said that because the United States Constitution requires a winning candidate to be a resident of a state, that somehow they could obviate the results of this election. Politically, I just don't see how they could do that. Even in these close circumstances, even with control Senate on the line, in an election campaign where their presidential nominee made a very strong point, and as do many Republican candidates across the country, of giving power back to the people and trusting the people. You keep hearing this over again, trusting the people. It's a little hard to understand how they would legitimize overturning the result of an election in which the majority of Missourians voted a certain way in full knowledge of what they were doing. Nobody... I have to imagine that very few, if any, people in Missouri who voted for Mel Carnahan were not aware of the fact that he had died in a plane crash a few weeks ago, and that if they voted for him and he was elected over John Ashcroft, that a vacancy would occur and that Mel Carnahan's widow, Jean Carnahan, would be appointed instead. This was obvious. If any issue would have 100% recognition in Missouri, it would be that. And still, the Missourians voted this way, and it's going to be awfully hard for the Republicans in the Senate, no matter how much they want to object to it.
Bob Benison, you have been so kind to us not only tonight and last night and this morning, but also during the course of our campaign coverage, joining us in chat rooms. Our thanks to you and the folks over at CQ for sharing information with us.
It was an absolute pleasure. We were glad to have you here.
And Susan, one other bit of information. We've been following California's 27th district. That was a race between Adam Schiff and James Rogan. James Rogan seeking re-election to a third term. It now appears as if the Democrats will take that seat. Adam Schiff getting about 52% of the vote compared to about 45% 50% in California's 27th district, with 81% of the precincts reporting in.
Oh, that's another turnaround, because earlier in the evening when the results were lower, that was a strong lead early on for Jim Rogan.
And it looks, as a matter of fact, ABC has just declared Adam Schiff the winner in that race.
What a night, huh? Now, we're going to be taking calls for about 12 more minutes. It is just a few minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we will be airing Ralph Nader's 30-minute concession speech to his supporters from Washington, D.C. Until then, let's hear what you think about this unfolding story. Shreveport, Louisiana, a Democrat.
Yes, I just wanted to come in and say that I'm praying for Al Gore. I back him 100%. And I just wanted to make a comment to the other callers that called in. I don't feel that it is right to judge this Al Gore because of what Bill Clinton did. We're all human. And I don't think that he should be judged on who he stood by as vice president. I think he should be judged on and characterized on issues that he's representing. And also that Bush is being highly glorified. And how can he run a nation when his schools rank the lowest in the state and nationwide? How's he going to run a whole country if he cannot run schools in the state that he represents?
Thank you very much. We're just going to keep going here this morning on C-SPAN. Right after that Ralph Nader speech ends at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll do an early start to our Washington Journal with our phone lines open and continue to look at these numbers as they come in and to hear from you and to get some reporting from you about what you're hearing in your home states on some of these close races. So we'll be at it on a night when there's lots to talk about and still lots that's unknown. Next call is once again Havelock, North Carolina, Republican. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Mike Wheeler again. I was just calling back to, by the way, you look fine at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, thanks. Please make your comment quick, because we're not supposed to be doing repeat calls here.
I was just calling back to comment on something I heard earlier from a Democrat talking about how Gore was going to carry on the traditions and the things that Clinton had done during his representation of the United States. And for 8 years, Clinton's been the vice president. And have you heard anything from him? No. He's been basically a shadow in the background. You think that just because he was the vice president, he learned anything? No. He hasn't said anything for 8 years. You think he's going to make a change now? No. It's time for a new start. There was a president that was a president for 8 years, the commander-in-chief of the military, and he broke every single rule that ever applied to any military serviceman that has ever served. So why should we elect his minion to become the president?
All right, sir. Thanks for your call. And then I'm going to ask you to make it your last for a month now that you've gotten through twice. Boyd's, Maryland, next on our independent line.
Thank you so much, C-SPAN. You guys do such a professional job. It's really amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There are 3 issues that this election gives us insight to, and I thought I'd let you know what they are. First of all, the corporate ownership of our political process is absolutely unacceptable. Second of all, there's not going to be any compromise in defense of Mother Earth anymore. And the third one is that the nonviolent victims of this nation's war on drugs are not willing to be oppressed any longer. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your participation. Kansas City, Missouri, next. Democrats line.
Yes, I think the really interesting thing that this election pointed out, particularly to a lot of people, was the fact that because of the upset that it appears that the Green Party was able to give in so many states, I think this should make Democrats, I voted Democrat, but I think this should make Democrats look and realize, okay, we've kind of gotten away from our core constituency. Here we had an incumbent, very experienced, very intelligent candidate lose against someone who didn't have a particularly impressive amount of experience or knowledge governing, and won mostly on just kind of seeming like he was a nice guy, and who took a large number of people who had for decades been core constituent members of the Democratic Party. I think that the Democrats should take this as a sort of a sign that, yes, though we were trying to steer away from bipartisan politics, that it might be a good idea to start, maybe regretting some of the things that they elected, like NAFTA, like all the concessions made with the World Trade Organization and such, for them to actually make some gains in the future. And I'm like many people, am sitting back and hoping that Gore wins this one.
Thanks to you. And next, Columbia, South Carolina, a Republican.
Good morning. They talk about judging Al Gore by what Clinton did. I'm judging Al Gore by what he did. Al Gore smoked marijuana. It was supplied by a friend. The friend said up until he ran for Congress. And he has since said that he has found that two friends of his continued to supply him with marijuana until he ran for vice president. So he was smoking it while he was in Congress and in the Senate. And on the about the books that these people claim they've read about George Bush, we know that one of them was recalled because the facts in it were made up, were wrong. So I just don't see why they can say these things about George Bush, because he is an honorable person. And just because he made one mistake, and that school, it is not on the bottom, it is risen to near the top in Texas. And I've had relatives that live in Houston, and they have no complaints about the air down there.
Well, Columbia, South Carolina, thanks so much. We have about 8 more minutes to take your telephone calls, and then we'll show you one of the events from tonight, Ralph Nader. St. Louis, Missouri is next on the Democrats line.
Yes. Hi, this is Carla, and I am a Democrat. I'm feeling kind of scared right now because if Al Gore loses, it really would sort of be his fault because he did not really use all of the tools that were at his, that was there on hand, such as George Bush touted a patient's Bill of Rights in Texas, and he praised it. He vetoed that bill. They do not have a patient's Bill of Rights in Texas because of Bush. He vetoed it. That should have been brought out in the debates by Gore.
Thank you. Olney, Maryland, you're next, and a Republican. What do you have to say?
I'm sorry. I'm actually a Democrat. I called on the wrong line. But as a young voter, I agree with a lot of the people saying that we need to have a change, but it's definitely not towards George Bush. And because of my fear of him being in office, I actually voted for Al Gore today when my heart was truly with Ralph Nader. And unfortunately, someone like Nader is in this country, they're not going to allow him to get but so far. He's too much of a threat. But in all hopes, I hope that what I've done will help to keep him out because I really don't see him as being the answer. I mean, it's like going from bad to worse, and that's not going to fix anything.
Baltimore, you're next, a Democrat.
Yes, I actually had 2 questions that none of the networks seem to be answering. I noticed earlier that some of the voters in Florida said that they had intended to vote for Gore, but found out later they had voted for Buchanan. What are going to happen to those votes? And also, I know that absentee ballots are usually not looked at in a nationwide issue, but because the popular vote is so close to this race, are more states going to be looking at their absentee ballots?
Thanks for your call. Next is a caller from Chesapeake, Virginia, and a Republican.
Yes, I wanted to comment about the election today, and of course this is a history-making night with the presidential election the way that it is. And as you mentioned, I am a Republican. We made some gains here in Virginia that I'm proud of, I'm glad for. I did vote for George Bush, also for George Allen taking over the Senate seat currently occupied by Senator Robb.
Do you have any comments on how it is that Mr. Allen prevailed there? What made the difference in his race?
I haven't heard any comments in particular. I know that he was very well liked as a governor here, and I think that may be the difference. I think part of it, quite honestly, is that he comes across as a warmer person than Senator Robb does. And Senator Robb has been there in Washington for, I believe, 12 years. And I think that there was that he had just gotten a little lost contact with people outside of the Beltway.
Do you think warmth and personality are appropriate qualities that people look for in political leaders?
I think that if you have two people that are closely matched, that would make a difference. But I also believe, obviously, that the positions are the first things that you have to consider. He's very strong on defense. I happen to be pro-life, and he's pro-life as well. So those things I thought were very important also.
Thank you for your call. Next is Krebs, Oklahoma. This is on the Democrats line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
You're on the air. What do you have to say?
Well, I've been listening to this show for a while, and I hear all these bleeding hearts out here about the pro-life and so forth. I'm more worried about these young children being brought into unwanted families, being mistreated, and set aside. Your drug-related children, your alcohol, whatever. You know, I don't believe in using abortion for a birth control, but I'm a firm believer in, you know, I don't believe nothing I see, only half of what I hear. And about the drugs and the alcohol, that's nothing new up on Capitol Hill. We all know that. You know, it's just, I'm a veteran also, and I don't see how anybody can vote for Republican, which I can remember his daddy going, read my lips, no more taxes. What did the man do? I mean, I'm sorry, but that's my belief. I mean, I just can't go for a man that, you know, our values come from our parents, and my values come from my father, and I see their values coming from their father, and we all know what we had with Reagan and Bush. So that's about the rest of my comments.
Thank you. Krebs, Oklahoma. Oceanside, California, as our reaction to Campaign 2000 continues.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
It's 2:13 in the morning in Oceanside, California, and I'm calling. I am a Republican, and I'm concerned about this brouhaha about all of Bush's mistakes. What we have to remember is that nobody is perfect, for one, and two, his mistakes were made while he was still a private citizen. Whereas we have, not only do we have a president and a vice president that were, well, you might say, had their indiscretions prior to being in office. During the time that they were in office, Mr. Clinton being governor, he was famous for his cocaine parties and his womanizing. So what do we want? Not only that, but they also slept with the communists, China, the Soviet Union, you name it. What are we giving to Korea now? North Korea. Why does he want to go to North Korea now that he's lame duck? What can he possibly do for North Korea other than possibly get some deals, make them some sweet deals on some of our military arms? And as for the surplus that we supposedly have, let's not forget all the cutbacks in the military. Bases have been closed. Our military equipment is in poor shape. We live right next door to Camp Pendleton, California, the biggest Marine Corps base. We are concerned about that. And one thing to let you go with a good thought. While they were declaring Bush as the winner, our new president, Camp Pendleton was having their maneuvers, practicing with the big guns out there, booming all over the place. And being a Republican and pro-military and red, white, and blue American, we took that to be as a 21-gun salute and hail to the chief.
Okay, Oceanside, thanks. Las Vegas, New Mexico, calling on our Democrats line. You're on the air.
Hello. I'd like to clarify, like I told the lady who answered, that this is Las Vegas, New Mexico, the original Las Vegas.
Sure, we know all about Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Well, she told me, is there such a place? Well, anyway, what I want to first make it clear that my comments are not against all Cuban people who have been naturalized as citizens. It's just that I was very surprised and very bothered with something I saw on the Spanish channel, Univision, about the during the elections. I kept switching channels to see what was reporting in all the stations, and since I speak Spanish also, I saw on their on Univision the Cuban people, in their group cheering that when they announced that Bush had won as president. And what bothered me, and like I say, this is not against all Cuban people, but against those who have taken the oath of citizens. And to me, that means that they are loyal to this country. And if they go out to vote, they're going to go out to vote on the issues for this country and the betterment of this country, not anything that has to do with Cuba or Cuban affairs or anything like that. But what really bothered me is that there were all these Cuban people holding up pictures of Elian Gonzalez, and I think one of the pictures had Stalin from Russia, and the commentator said, well, the Cubans said that they would get even with the Clinton administration and with the Democrats for what they did to Elian Gonzalez, and they surely did. And that bothers me because once they took the oath to become citizens, their loyalty was to the United States, not to Cuba or what happens, and they should respect what the government here does, whether they agree with it or not.
Caller, thanks. We're going to let you go because we only have about 4 minutes left. Appreciate it. Our next call comes from one of the few places in the United States where it's still a decent hour, Hawaii, the Big Island. Go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to comment on the way that the media was covering the election today, and how earlier today how the election was given to Vice President Gore, how it was automatically assumed that the state of Florida was in his pocket, and then how ironically it was taken away after it was observed that the votes weren't tallied, and how again it occurred later on today, or I should say last night or early this morning, and how the vote was given to Bush prematurely, and that I would wish in the future that the media would practice a little bit more responsibility and just knowing their facts before they release them. And I'm finished. Thank you very much.
San Antonio, you are on the air on our independent line.
Okay.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Karen. Yes. All right. I wanted to say that me, my husband, and our best friend, Rich, we all voted Libertarian for Harry Brown. He had the most straightforward political advertisement I've ever seen. And this presidential election, year 2000, is a stinging example of just how desperately our country requires more choices. Between the Green Party, Ralph Nader, and Libertarian candidate Harry Brown, surely they have 5% overall, and I think that justifies the third party.
Thanks for your call from San Antonio. Well, let me tell you about what's coming up. We're going to show you next Ralph Nader's speech in Washington last night when he conceded the election with supporters at the National Press Club. That will take us till just before 6 a.m. Eastern Time, when we continue with our discussion about the election as we begin an early edition of the Washington Journal. And we are live all throughout the day, tomorrow, or today rather, with analysis and discussion about the election, and certainly press conferences as they are available when we know more about the vote in Florida. So this is the place to be to talk about what's happening. You can watch the other news networks if you like, but come back and join us for the conversation about what's going on.